preparing to live stream the meeting.
I think we're live, buddy.
All right, and we're live. Hello all, welcome. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Janine.
This is the Lingual Life Podcast. So today we're going to be talking about shadow dancing. So first of all, what is shadow dancing and why it's something that would be helpful to do in your spiritual journey and to help you along in your daily life?
Yes, it's kind of a big deal. Before we jump right into that, let's explain the format just a little bit. The first hour, we're going to talk about the topic and relay some of our experiences with it. We might even do some tapping for ourselves. Like we've been kind of working through some stuff pre-show, which has been really interesting for us. So the first hour is going to be us kind of moving through the topic. The second hour, we open it up to anyone who'd like to jump on the Zoom call with us and share their experiences on their own shadow work, how that shows up for them, any experiences they might have that, you know, there might be some help that we can assist with, or I don't know, anything really. Also, we're also on Instagram. We're on Clubhouse. For anybody who likes what we're doing, what we're talking about, go ahead and follow us on there. We also support a value for value model. So if you find value in what we're doing, what we're talking about, we're happy to accept any donations or support that anyone may have. We have Patreon and a Ko-Fi account, and all those links will be listed down below in the description box once this gets posted. So, Jacob, what does shadow dancing look like for you, buddy?
Before I get into that, I'd like to add, if anybody would like to join for that second hour, just pop up in the YouTube comments and I can send it right to you. So for me, shadow dancing recently has been recognizing when I am out of alignment, when I'm acting out of fear-based emotions, when I'm not feeling like I can always, do it. I'm not believing in myself. And that'll come up on the daily for me. And especially when it comes to looking at the future is a big one for me. Not staying present is such a big one to look at, because you'll have the anxiety of, going into the future. And that is what I would call dancing with your shadow, on being okay with the future, or looking at, well, where am I at right now? I'm fine. I'm safe. I have supportive people around me and everything's perfect.
Yeah, agreed. It also goes the other way too. Like, first of all, let's say everybody's going to experience their own shadow, their own unique way.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically for you, there's a lot of future anxiety. For some people, it's like past stuff, and that usually manifests as like depression and sadness. It's interesting that it goes both ways, but both ways take you out of the present moment.
Yes.
And it's a different group of emotions, which is what's interesting too.
A good example would what Janine said a little before, episode, shadow dancing. So anxiety.
You guys, we were doing our own shadow dancing.
Mm-hmm. In preparation for what was about to come. So that's worrying about the future of not being able to perform right, whatever that may be, not saying the right things, not like there has to be particular things that you have to come across to get the word across. And it's really important no matter what it is. And it always leads to growth or playing out the pattern and continuing that along until you decide to look at it.
Yeah.
So
that kind of brings us to our first point, is like, how do you know when you're dancing with a shadow, right? Like, how do you recognize when you're out of alignment? how do you recognize when you're out of alignment?
Emotions will usually be the ones that come to me, things that'll trigger me. Really anything that's other than what you would call calm. But that's not always the case. It's whatever you determine to be the shadow, which most people would relate with the ego, negativity, things that will bother or upset you, that'll bring out that aspect in yourself that isn't in accordance to what you would be okay with in your day-to-day life. Anything that's out of, I feel like I'm missing my point here.
We're gonna do our own shadow dancing here. So how are you feeling right now, Jacob?
Jumbled.
Okay, so this is a perfect example, you guys, of shadow dancing. You stop what you're doing, take a breath, identify the emotion or the thing that's causing you to be like, why am I doing that? Noticing the thing. Take a breath, let it all settle back down and go. If that's as far as you can get and you have to keep going, that is enough, right? But since we're live and we're going to move through it live, it's like, take a breath, recenter, name the emotion, which you did. I feel jumbled. Is there something more than that? Like you just keep noodling in and you're like, is there something under that? Is there a feeling under that?
Needing to prove.
Is that
oneself?
feeling?
Searching. That's a good one.
Okay.
Searching is one. Searching for the right answers.
Searching for the right answers.
Not
what
believing
else?
That they're already there.
Interesting. What else? Deep breath.
The slippery one.
Oh, well, that tells me something right there.
Oh, it does.
My own experiences of my shadow work. So I'm going to make a note. Y'all know I found a book called Heal Your Wounds and Find Your True Self. She describes the 5 soul wounds, and there's one in there that I dreamed about that it showed me that it was slippery, slimy, slippery, and it's humiliation. So normally, like if I was doing this not being live, I would not say, I know what this is, but for the sake of like a teaching moment, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag there.
Absolutely. It resonates.
Yeah, or if the person is like, I really want to know, and because like really what you want to do in your shadow dancing is like you want them to have the aha moment for themselves. You want them to keep noodling in, and all the other person, if you're doing this consciously with another person, all the other person has to do is support and echo and say, yes, what else? I hear you. What else? Tell me more. Tell me more. And just elicit what they already know to come out of them. It's a fascinating process. So what's beyond that slipperiness? Like
not believing in yourself, not believing in myself. Let me reword that.
Okay. Take a breath. What else?
The desire to share with others so that they don't feel that they are in the similar situation. But as I'm playing that out, I'm keeping myself from feeling that. And I'm pushing that onto others.
And you just found the thing that's projecting. Bravo. That's called I call those a full circle moment, where it's like you see that it's a thing you're doing, but you're like, oh, but it's also this other thing going the opposite way. That's full, and like you just integrated that.
Always the unexpected.
Yeah, it's funny how they happen too. Like that's sort of we kind of skipped ahead. We're like, okay, episode's done. Good job, everybody go home. but that's like the thing that shows you that it's that portion of it, that layer of it is complete. You have this aha moment, or you just have this very gentle realization where you're like, oh, look, I'm also projecting that. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, doink, the light bulb goes off.
So when you get to that impasse, you got to decide whether or not you're going to go with the brighter side of it, which in this case, that was me willing to name those despite the humiliation wound playing out, and
Yes.
wanting to present myself as someone who's simply trying to share from a place of knowingness, but also, see, I even put quotations on it.
Quote unquote.
Yes, yes.
You did it and you undid it, right? That's funny.
The contradiction with shadow dancing is, it's so real. It'll come up as you contradicting yourself, and that's a great way to notice it. A great way.
Yeah.
Because when you start to listen to your own words, you're like, what am I trying to get across here?
Did I just say that backwards and like ways and 3 ways from Sunday? I think I did. And like, if you can consciously catch it. Let's back up for a second and go back to the point number 1, is recognizing when you're out of alignment. And it happens differently for everybody. It'll be specific and perfect for you and what you're holding in the subconscious in your shadow, and like what needs to come up to be seen and integrated. There's a yin side, or a yin experience, and a yang experience of like shadow wounds. So the yin is like things just come up from within you kind of for no reason. Like it feels like it's for no reason. Maybe you're just sitting there and you're like, I just feel sad all of a sudden.
And anxiety.
That's, yeah, we're just sitting there stewing in anxiety for no reason, like your head spent, whatever. Or it could be sadness, it could be anger, it can be any emotion, but it's just like, it's just there and you don't know why, nothing triggered it. That's a yin. That's usually associated with your feminine energy, the left side of your body, those kinds of things. There's also a yang component, which is like your yin side is so jacked up, like it can't come up like that. And the only thing you can do is project it out into 3D reality, and it comes back to you in 3D to slap you upside the face. Those are like outer triggers that elicit the emotion that requires attention and to be moved through. So there's 2 different ways that it can come to you like that. I experienced both during after I had my initiating experience or my activating experience. Like stuff would just erupt out of me, and I was like, it's like you think you're going crazy, but it's a very specific wound you're running that says you have a limiting belief that it has to come up this way, and therefore it does. So you just keep moving through layers and layers and layers and layers of it. And at some point in my experience, the yin stuff stopped erupting because I had seen him move through a lot of it. And then it was like, I literally had a sort of download one day that it was like, and now you need a king. Like I was moving through the queendom, right? And now you need a king. And I'm like, okay, we're moving into masculine stuff. And literally 15 minutes later, I had a phone call from a girl that we had a fight with. We moved through a very conscious conversation about that fight. It was all resolved. I'm like, so this is how it works. And then a lot of stuff started coming to me in 3D. So feelings are key, right? Recognizing when you're out of alignment. So for you, does it come in like a lot of internal introspective, or does it come more from coming at you from the outside in?
Both.
Okay.
Seeing how they like, they'll go hand in hand. So when you have, like you were saying earlier, the full circle, how they'll all be related and interconnected. But to go back to what you asked and answer that more directly, I'd say that it starts with heightened emotional state, when you'll just kind of feel like there's this negative nagging thought, the intrusive thoughts is what they're called. And those, they're just society will normalize a lot of this stuff so that it's okay to keep on playing this, trauma, this wound that you're holding on to. and to accept it as this is normal and like nothing ever needs to change. And
Yeah,
when
either
you,
completely normalized or it's swept under the rug. Like for a lot of men, especially, it's like it's not okay to have emotions. It's not okay to show your emotions. That's
mm-hmm,
not a manly thing to do. It's just like, let's sweep that under the rug. Or it's like, well, that's just the way life is. Like
yes,
that's what you're talking about for sure. Like
that's
it's like,
funny that you bring that up.
no, it's not. Suffering is not your normal state. Let's rewire that right now, right?
That's funny that you
Joy
bring
and
that
love
up.
are your normal states.
Mm-hmm. Because that was coming up last night as well for me.
Was it?
Getting past that, yeah, getting past the not normalizing in myself that it's okay to feel those emotions because I'm male, and that's a big part of the process in moving past this shadow, the shadow work. And for the sake of the topic that we were talking about, to name the title shadow dancing, and what we're doing is just
Yeah.
recognizing a lot of these traumas and moving
Catching it
through
by the
them.
tail when it
Hmm.
happens.
And
Yeah.
it's sometimes a dance because I'll have these aha moments, feel so confident, and then it'll come back in a new way. And like, okay, are you gonna do it with this situation too? And then it's whether or not you're gonna move into that higher perspective of it, because there's layers, or if you're going to let that defeat you and bring you back down, and you'll start to just go back into this lull state where you're kind of just feeling like you can't do it, like you failed in a way. That's
Yeah.
how
And
I felt anyway.
that's why it's a dance, because it's an oscillation. It's literally
Hmm.
like it's if you look at astrology like I do, it's like when you have an opposition in a chart, it's like you go over here and vibrate with this planet for a while. You can't hold that vibe forever. So you go back over to this planet and you're like holding that, and you oscillate back and forth until you can hold both vibes and be in the center. And that's how you bring that opposition in a chart to fruition, like completion. Is like you can hold both vibes, stand in your own strength, do it calmly, and like, oh, and then that's when it reveals the wonderful thing that's beyond the work. Like that's when you go into like a creative mode with it. But you're right, there are layers and layers and layers and layers. And the work is you move through a layer and you go to another sticky thing, and it's like, can I hold the same frequency here and stay in this uncomfortable thing? Because shadow dancing, you guys, is uncomfortable. It is moving through layers of blocks and wounds and karmas and traumas and all kinds of things, but it's all yucky, stuck, emotional stuff that's in your body or your energy field.
Hmm.
So how do you, when you get to a point where you've moved through something and you're like, dang it, now I'm working on the next thing, and I feel like I just messed that up. Like, what do you do?
Well, the external will really challenge that in myself. With shadow dancing, when you're moving through something and you're recognizing it and moving past it and feel like you have got it, and then it comes up in the external will usually play its part in saying that well, how I take it anyway is, for example, we're out of retrograde with all the planets, and I use that on those certain points where the energy is high and I feel connected and like I can release a lot of this stuff, and it comes up for me naturally anyway. It's gonna come up anyway, so may as well. It's an opportunity that I love to get into. And when I process a lot of that stuff and move through it, and then no retrograde now, and I'm still feeling it, that'll cause me to question myself in a lot of ways. That it's like, oh, am I not in the alignment of the energy going on right now? Am I just out of it? I question myself and whether I've stepped through it and finished the work that I needed to do, because I'm still feeling that stuff, and negative thoughts will come through to you at all angles. And that's just one of them that I've been thinking about recently. I think earlier today as well. I'm just like, oh, I'm still moving through this stuff. but that's just the layers still rippling out. And it doesn't matter. It's what it's really teaching me is to know myself better and where I'm at, and trusting that it's okay and that I don't need to relate it all the time to the external that's coming and triggering me, because the triggers are just there as reminders or little tests like, hey, have you got it yet? Have you sure about that? You still got it?
Yeah, it's only a test in a way. It's like running a marathon. It's only a test in a way where universe is like, you got past this level, now you got to hold the vibe up here too. And it's just keeping the growth moving. It's a challenge more than a test. It's just like, can you hold the inner vibe and move through the thing at the same time? Yeah.
And I want to say why it's so important is, for me anyways, yeah, it's a lot more comfortable in just accepting where you're at and not really caring as much. And that's totally fine. I mean, it'll still come up to you in certain ways, and that's just life. And what I've chosen, it's a choice to look at all of this and to move past it, is because my purpose, the purpose that I've found anyway, what brings me joy in life, goes in hand in hand in what relates to a lot of traumas that are, a lot of wounds that are still playing out, wanting to be a savior for people, needing to be of use, things like this that will come full circle, and this is the dance of it, will come back and forth, and you recognizing the different layers on your purpose and what you are playing out and putting out in the world. And what I want to put out is, good vibes, high vibes, vibrations that other people will see somebody who isn't playing the wounds and who has space. So when you take care of the wounds, you are creating space in yourself for other people to be more themselves. And it's not so much from an egotistical point of view. It's just recognizing that we're all divine and we're all learning. We're all masters. And I heard this.
That's the high vibe, right? That's like the thing, the aspiration, the thing, but for some reason you keep moving through layers of ego block, right? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Is it okay if I share like your sun sign?
Oh yeah, go for it.
So in the system of astrology I use is a Virgo sun. And Virgo sun's highest octave of expression is to be in service. But the lower octaves of Virgo are very critical and hard on themselves. And they're always like, I didn't do that right. And it's really interesting to watch people develop through the octaves of that planetary energy and just watch them grow into the highest octave of why the sun parked itself there and you were born on that day. So I find that very fascinating. Like I watch your journey through that lens of like, look at you climbing that Virgo ladder, you go. And every challenge that you come up against, it's always that kind of Virgo nature. And the good observational, like the reason sun parked itself in Virgo is like, you need to learn analysis and critical thinking without getting in the low vibe of Virgo, which is martyr and blah, blah, blah. But if you get in the high vibe of Virgo, or like the unbalanced ego vibe of Virgo, that's the other side. It gets unbalanced, like ego stuff. Mm-hmm. So its highest purpose is to be in service, to analyze and be observational of yourself, which you do a really good job of, I have to say. And and it's just learning to do that dance with the planetary energy and be like, okay, I understand in my left brain that this is the thing. And you just keep coming back around to it. If you oscillate away from it and you get into like being critical or being whatever it is, whatever the bad juju feeling is, you just come back to it.
You want to tell them what the left brain and the right brain, the processing that goes on between the two hemispheres?
It's probably a good idea. So for anyone that's interested, the left brain is like logical and analytical, and the right brain is the right brain's connected to the left side of the body. So the right brain is actually kind of a yin thing, but because of the way the nerves work, it's connected to the left side of the body, which we identify as yin side of the body. And it's feminine, it's receptive, it's the part that's psychic, and it's the part that's connected to like universe and is artistic and doesn't understand time. Like when you get in the creative flow with your right brain, you're just like, I just spent 5 hours doing that and I don't know where the time went. That's because you're in the right brain. The part that doesn't work with time, right? It's outside of time, literally. So the left brain is the analytical side. It's connected to the right side of the body, which is the masculine, which is the doing side. So the left brain wants to be thinking, organizing, categorizing, any of those sort of logical type things.
And if you're in tune enough with your body, you'll actually notice the switch, the flip of the switch. You'll start realizing like, yeah, you can feel in a certain space where your processing is going on, but you'll notice the difference. Once you distinguish the two and what they both do, it just all brings it back into yourself. And that's why shadow dancing is so important, to bring it back within yourself, is that you can have this opportunity to look at life in a new light, not to just analyze everything and have to place it in this column so that you can grasp a better understanding, but that you can navigate life easier, hold space for others and yourself while still fulfilling your highest purpose. And personally, I think that you'll be a happier person in the end. People find joy in their own things too, though, whether you consider them awake or asleep. And that's all from your perspective too. Because
you get to that point, you stop.
Go for it.
You stop judging people when you get to that point. You're just like, oh, you haven't experienced at some point where you're like, everything's perfect, actually. Like, universe got this. I just need to focus on this stuff. Watch everything around me. Like, you get into that observer mode really easy. You're just like, okay, that came to me for a reason. And it can't, like, I don't know about anybody else, but like, I get, when we have celestial alignments, like we're winding down from the full moon, there's like a 2-week period that is starting to complete itself where I just powered through this stuff. There was an alignment with a star. The sun was in alignment with a star Fomalhaut. And it brought in some majorly powerful energies for me, like being in that alignment in here aligns me to the cosmos, and literally universe brings me things during that alignment period that it's like power through it. And some people might start to notice things like that, like, why is it so intense right now? It's because you're in alignment and universe knows you can do the work, and it's bringing you things at maximum capacity, or at the capacity that's optimal for you to process. So yeah, be aware of those outer triggers, because sometimes they might be major opportunities to, like, that really made me mad.
Made me uncomfortable.
Let's take a breath.
Yep.
Let's dance with that. Let's dance with that anger. How can I move through that anger safely? What do I need to create a space that's safe to express that? What do I need to see that's within that? Why is that running? Like, those are the things you got to start asking yourself.
Yeah. I think that's where it's really good to find things that make you feel aligned, things that make you happier, and not just something that's like an indulgence. Yeah, it's okay to still do that. And I mean, it's not you aren't gonna get all your journey done, through weekend benders. It's gonna be through that stuff that is lasting, and not that quick dopamine release, but that serotonin that lasts and continues giving back to you because you feel better about yourself. You feel like you've accomplished something.
Yeah, the happy chemicals, right? Like when you are in alignment, like, you don't have a whole lot of those negative things coming at you, or they're spaced out in a way where it's very manageable. And it's like, for the most part, you're on that oxytocin high or that serotonin high, or like whatever those happy neurochemicals are. And that's the body's way of knowing, like, it's all safe in here. You know, your parasympathetic nervous system is like flying and everything feels good.
When do you notice when you're feeling more aligned? Like, what do you do to get back in alignment when you're feeling those down days?
That's a good question. I'm different than most people.
Perfect.
Like, I know that universe is bringing me the opportunity, and I don't try and change the tune. That's where I'm different from a lot of people, is I don't go, this doesn't feel good, let's go do something that feels good. Or let's go do an affirmation to like get rid of this yucky feeling. I turn right around and I walk right back into it this way. I'm like, that felt yucky. What in here is showing me that there's something that's running? And I will sit down and I don't do meditation in a way that most people do. Most people are like, you want to stop the yapper from yapping. The truth about the yapper in your head is that the yapper stops yapping as a byproduct of not having anything to yap about. It's only yapping because it needs your attention, because there's stuff running. When there's nothing running, it doesn't yap. So I look at meditation that way. I'm like, if the yapper's yapping, I stop, I make a little space, I sit down and I go, okay, what we need to talk about right now. What's the emotion about? And I know my 5 soul wounds. I have a process I go through, and I'm like, what are the feelings? Not good enough, not worthy. I feel like XYZ, whatever it is, I can go identify what soul wound it is. I can see if the things are looping, which that has been a big part of my process, is identifying loops. Like, gosh, what was the recent one? I don't know. There's a really big one that is like literally detangling right now. That is, it's too good to be true. Worst case scenario. Those two things. Every time I up level and I'm like, this is amazing. Look at how amazing life is getting. I get those little thoughts that's like, and you're going to wreck your car. And your cat's going to die. And your package is going to get destroyed in the mail. And I'm like, there's worst case scenario again. You just identify it. You go, there it is again. It's at this level too. And it just means you have to move through it at this level as well. And it's like, you'll probably see layers and layers and layers of it until you get to a layer where it's like, that's where it originated. And you move through that layer and then it just doesn't do it anymore. It's a neural pattern that you have to rewire. And there's probably many synapses that are like wired to it, because it's just a protective mechanism that your brain is doing. But subconsciously you're storing it and then you project it. So really it just keeps coming back to you. And that's a loop in itself. And it's like the only way to break the loop is go and be with the emotion and work through whatever it is, and keep telling yourself, this is okay to feel this. Yeah. It's okay to feel yucky. I don't have to like it. Ego doesn't have to like it. Right? But what's important is that you're there with it. You breathe it in and out, and that moves it out of your body, because the negative emotions get stuck in the body, and you move it out of the body, and then that layer of it just kind of doesn't come back anymore. And sometimes it's like 2 weeks later, you realize, I haven't had one of those worst case scenario thoughts in 2 weeks. And that's how you notice that it's done running, is one day you just notice the absence of it and you're like, huh, that stopped. Mm-hmm. That's how it works.
And it's not that it doesn't have to exist. It's that it just doesn't trigger you anymore.
You've integrated the aspect.
Mm-hmm.
The pattern doesn't have to repeat anymore. The pattern doesn't show up anymore. It's not that you have thrown that thing away. It's that you've moved into it so far that you've moved beyond it. You integrated it. You held the space for it. You're like, it's just a part of me that needs some love. It's a part of me that got hurt at some point in space time in this life or a past life, that's stuck in this time loop, keeps coming up, keeps playing over and over again. And until you can be like, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. How can I create a situation where it's safe to experience that and breathe through it and move through it? And it's, yeah, then your dreams get wild, and then things start happening that are really interesting.
My dreams are always wild.
I know, mine too. I think we have, between the two of us, we have some really high vibe dreams.
Some of them change. What was my train of thought there? They kind of go beyond, for me anyways, just dreams being as weird as they are already, what you would expect to feel in certain dreams changing, because there's like deeper hidden meanings to it. If anybody is looking into going into their dream space and remembering, going into the recalling of them and analyzing that and trying to find what's behind them, it would be really good to start with the 3D, with what you're interacting with on the day-to-day life first, to bring it within yourself so that you can recognize when those emotions pop up, what you're playing in the conscious mind, so that then you can start to work on the subconscious, because the dream is all entirely subconscious.
Yeah, it's a communication from that right brain part of your body, right? That's why dreams are graphic, symbolic. What's the word I'm looking for? They are analogies, they are metaphors. And that's how you write. A picture is worth 1,000 words. It's more efficient for that part of your brain. It's just more efficient, period, to describe a thing with images than with words. Because what your dreaming self brings you is the association. It's specific to you. And that's why dream dictionaries sometimes are okay, but you really got to look at your own neural associations with that thing, that object, that place, that person, that experience, and make lists of golden retrievers. Here's my, 3 things about golden retrievers. Like, some people be like, I got attacked by a golden retriever. That's probably not ever going to happen. It's a golden retriever. But let's just say, like, maybe a 3-year-old was a golden retriever came up and just wallowed all over him because it was so excited. But the 3-year-old's like, I'm attacked. Subconsciously, you bury that and you hold it in your body. And it's like, maybe you have a massive fear of golden retrievers for the rest of your life and you don't know why, because it happened at 3. So you got to go back and noodle into all those associations, all those feelings, how your dream is presenting it, and where it's stuck in your body, right? Because this brain is where the thoughts emanate from and move through, and where memories are stored. The body is actually where the emotions are stored. And that's a very, very important part of shadow work, is knowing that as you move through layers of things, you will feel energies moving in your body as things release. It is perfectly natural. It can be a little scary when it's like, my body's never done this before, but heart chakra openings, spleen stuff, depends. Certain organs in Chinese medicine have certain emotions that are specifically held in those organs. So say the first part of my journey, I was moving through a lot of overwhelm and panic and terror. And it's that was coming out of spleen and kidneys and bladder meridians with acupuncture. I didn't know that then. It was just completely overwhelming.
Got something to say about that. So for a lot of people, I myself for a while, and still with some things, when you're playing out those subconscious moments and you aren't recognizing the triggers, what do you suggest for certain methods to start beginning to recognize what's playing, or why they don't like certain things? Say some people won't be big huggers, or some people can't stand certain ways that people will talk to them, or they won't know the reasons why, and they have trouble gauging what they're playing based on what they're feeling, because they aren't very good at communicating with their own selves. That's
a good question. First thing is notice it. Always bring conscious awareness to it. That's all the thing is trying to do. It just needs your conscious awareness and attention. Notice it every time it happens. Okay. The more you notice it, the more you're going to be good at grabbing the thing by the tail. Be like, there it was again. There it was again. There it was again. And one day you're just going to have the space to sit down and something will come to you like you'll remember something, or you'll have a body sensation or whatever. But number one is awareness. Watch it, observe it, go, there it was again. What's that all about? The second thing that's been the most helpful for me, and like I kind of downloaded from either my inner self, higher self, spirit guide. Literally one day a voice came in and just said, ask. One word. That was it. So my process started with observing the thing that was uncomfortable, and then turning around and going in here and going, what's important to know and understand about this? I wonder why this is running. I wonder when this started. Was it in this lifetime? Was it in a past lifetime? Who is involved with this? Ask all the who, what, why, where questions. The most important one is, I wonder what's important to know and understand about this. And then just riff into any other question that comes into your head. And so into the weirdness with like, what do I need to know about you? Like, where did you come from? And you come at it from a not attacky way. A question is a quantum thing, you guys. When you ask a question, you open a doorway somewhere in space-time for the answer to come to you. So ask the question to yourself. Ask the question to God, angels, universe, whatever it is that you feel like has access to the answer. Most importantly, like for me, it was most important to go in here and be like, hey, inner me, inner self, subconscious self, shadow self, whatever, higher self. What's important for me to know and understand about this? And then I just let it go. And I'll sit there and I'll just wait. And I'll usually give it 30 seconds. And then if I start getting associations or visuals or hear things like, or I'll start having like things pop into the brain, that's meditating, is asking, allowing all the neural patterns to come up. And then I go, is there an emotion stuck in the body somewhere that I can express at this time? Is there something I can move through very consciously and just allow that to flow so it's not stuck anymore? And if there's something, it just kind of comes up. But you've also invited it. I mean, like, come on, let's flow. I'm holding space for you.
You have to be really
Breathe.
in the moment with it. You can't. Yeah, the distractions are very easy to get caught up in, especially in the mental escaping. If you're doing a lot of processing, I do that a lot myself. It's hard for me to go into that, and I'll usually have to be guided by somebody, that being you in this case, to go into it and ask the questions. Why? Because I feel like there's nothing there. There's nothing, that's wanting to come up. And then that's when it really shows itself.
Yeah, well, initially, it does. It takes time. It takes persistence. I mean, do you learn to dance overnight? No. Yeah. Do you learn to waltz overnight or tango? No, it's a process. It's a process. This is a process. There are steps you can follow, right? And these are my personal steps. But I'm happy to hear that it's like, I'm happy to hear your experience where it's like, I'm learning to do this through guidance. And literally that's all it is like you learn how to do the steps and then you can do them yourself. And then the really important thing is like when you get in that space where it's all coming up is like you make the space, you excuse yourself from the situation, you take a breath and be like, I'll be back in 5 minutes. With whatever you're feeling. If it's anger, you're just like, I'm here with all that anger right now. I'm going to take it out of this situation. I'm going to go create a safe space for myself to process through this. And if you don't come back to that conversation or that person is gone when you get back, fine. You did a good thing by going and holding space for yourself wherever, whenever, however you need to do it. Now, what's really powerful is when you can do that process with another person, where another person can hold space and mirror for you consciously. Then both you guys, whoever's doing it with you, you're powering through stuff together. And that's amazing. That is an amazing thing when you learn how to have a conscious conversation where you're like, I'm very angry right now. I'm feeling very angry right now, and I would like to express XYZ. And the other
Or
person,
whatever you're feeling.
yes, it feels safe to express it. And even if it goes, I don't know if it feels safe, you go, something just shifted and I don't feel safe right now. There's something that's flipping that isn't sure that it's safe. Is it safe to say this? And the other person can say yes or no. Usually if it's a conscious conversation, they'll say yes. They'll be like, yes, it is absolutely safe. You're not projecting on me. I hear you. Tell me what you're feeling, right? And it's just about the person's holding space, and then they mirror the other person. They say, I hear you. And if that brings up a trigger for them, they talk about their trigger, and then it ping pongs back to the other person and back and forth until it's just all out of gas, until that layer of the wound is out of gas. And it's like, it stopped. I don't feel anything else anymore. And then you hug and cry and you're like, that was amazing. Have you ever had that happen, like outside of like our conversations? Because I know we do that all the time. We do that all the time.
Well, mine isn't about reassurance, really, or at least not a back and forth. I've only had 2 or 3 conscious conversations to where I felt like it went beyond words. And it's when it's so foreign, it feels like a whole nother reality in my experience. And it feels like the most important thing in that moment, and it ripples out through the rest of your day, the rest of your week. It's through synchronicities, it's through recognizing a lot of stuff that I'll be playing out. And it's a huge teaching moment because you have everything at your fingertips, because you aren't playing out any of those traumas, any of those wounds. You aren't worried about anything. You're simply there with that person talking about whatever, don't even need a point to be made in the conversation or a topic. You're just letting it flow, and you'll learn so much about yourself in those moments when you give way to letting go, to trying to come up with a reason for speaking, a reason for expressing whatever it is you're trying to get to the person, and you stumble across the truth. And the truth can be whatever it is. It could be that you don't need to try and hold that space for them so that they feel like they can talk to you, or whatever it may be. That's my experience. And it's a beautiful thing, really. There's nothing that makes me feel more alive in life, honestly.
That's a flow state, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a flow state. That's the thing you get to with other people when you can have conscious conversation. It's what you get to being present in the universe and being able to do this dance and just clear stuff. And like you get in this flow state, and the universe just reflects what's in here. It's a mirror on an infinite scale.
Mm-hmm.
When you clear everything and you're in alignment, universe says, you're running in alignment. Well, everything comes to you in alignment. Okay. That's it.
And this is where
it gets so magical.
Yes. And this is where dancing with your shadow is so important. It's because even in those moments with myself, the things that have spoken to me on the deepest level that I've felt in this lifetime is that I'll still have moments where I'm feeling that I'm searching for that. I am acting out of alignment to get back into alignment.
That's
trying to chase the high, you could say. And it's always coming up. Yeah.
Here's the interesting thing about chasing the high is when you're in alignment, it's not a high, it's a softness, it's a gentleness, it's a ease. It's not overexcited. It's just like, it's yes. Ease and grace. And when you're chasing a high, it's an oscillation on the other side. It's like the high, the low, the high, the low. You go back and forth until you're like, the ease and the grace of flow is here in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And so just notice that when you're going through those things, you're like, I had it. And it's like, what is there to be had?
Yes.
Right? You're like, this is an oscillation to the high side. If something is overexcited, so like that's when you turn around, you jump back into the feelings. It's like, I feel like over jazzed, my body, my endocrine system feels like on edge. Like there's a serious thing like with adrenaline junkies, right? Like it's an oscillation to the high side. When you're in alignment, it's just like, well, of course that happened. Life is perfect. Of course that happened. Life is a perfect mirror. Let me rephrase that. Life is a perfect mirror. Of course that happened. So yeah, I like that. I like that exploration of it too, where it's like, aha, there's something to noodle back into there too. So what else do we want to say about shadow dancing? Finding things that help you feel aligned. What are beside, okay, so the one side of shadow dancing is like turning around, diving into the shadow and learning to dance with the shadow. The other side is you can also do affirmations and like high vibe things, because your shadow resides in your subconscious, right? It helps to bring things to the surface of the subconscious when you start inputting affirmations and intentions. And like, I think you wanted to bring up mirror work. Major. You can start inputting the good vibes and always use like a present tense and a positive outcome. What you want to do is say like, give me an example of something you want to work on, and let's phrase it.
When you said mirror work, let's do affirmations in front of the mirror. When you have that loud, intrusive thought voice that's like, like shouts it, and then you have the quiet, voice that supports you, and it's not as heard, but it's the wisdom giver. It's the one that knows. It's your inner knowingness, your loving self. So distinguishing those two is really, really big, and I think that would be a good one to talk about.
Okay, is there a specific, okay, let's come up with the don't, because most people are going to be like, I'm not good enough. Like, I want to feel good enough. Like they're going to come up with the affirmation from the wrong way around. Like, I want to stop doing this thing. So on that end of it, what is it for you? I want to stop worrying about things.
I see.
Is that it? Is that like a good example?
No.
Can we use that as an example?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're using that, it would like somebody might say an affirmation like, I want to stop worrying about things. And how you want to word an affirmation is present tense, positive, because you want to input the higher vibe stuff. You say, I am confident in all things. You don't say what you don't want, because all universe hears is, I worry about stuff. It hears worry. It doesn't understand a negative, right? It doesn't hear, I don't want to worry anymore. It just hears worry, and it reflects it to you. Yeah. What you say is like, I feel confident and capable in all situations. And here's the key, because emotions are where we manifest. Emotions are how we shadow dance. The key is to bring in the feeling of confidence or gratitude. Gratitude's a good, powerful one.
And this is where intrusive thoughts come in, because you may hear something say, oh, you're just faking it. You're lying to yourself. This is just a facade. That's the mask playing out.
That is correct. That is the nugget that needs love. So what I recommend when those happen is have a piece of paper. Like when you're doing affirmations, have a piece of paper, or if you're doing it as mirror work, whatever. Mirror work's powerful, and also doing them like as you're going to sleep or waking up. Potent time to start inputting the affirmations, because you're in that liminal space and you're still tapped into the subconscious, and you can bring in that good feeling and say that I am confident and capable of all situations, feel it, and like it inputs into the subconscious. You're going to input more by bringing the feeling in than saying the words. That's the truth, unless you're doing it in the mirror, because the mirror is a reflection. So if you're just words, do it in the mirror. Yes. You go.
it's a great way to recognize as well, that how to go into yourself and look at what you're feeling when you first wake up in the day. Note down all your thoughts. Looking at all your thoughts and what is coming up will tell you so much about yourself, and you'll look at that
Yeah.
on paper. I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
And you can literally identify what wound you're running. Like, of the 5 soul wounds, you can start reverse engineering what you're running. So I highly recommend a piece of paper, and every time one of those little nuggets comes in when you're inputting the good stuff and the little yappers start to yap, and you go, thank you, I just made a note of that. Let's take care of that in perfect divine timing. Let's have a look at that. It's not even like let's take care of it. It's just because it just needs you to be with it to move the emotion. Let's have a look at that when it's ready. When it's ready and it can come gently. Like I'm always like, hey, can this come gently and easily and understandably? And it totally depends on what you're running. But, and let me rephrase it. And if it's able to come to you in a gentle way, it will, especially if you ask for it to come that way. I am willing to look at this. I want to see what you're holding for me. I acknowledge you. I'm going to observe this thing every time it pops up, and then let it go. You made a note, let it go. Continue with your affirmations in the mirror, or if you're in bed, continue with those. And then if another one, you just make a list and you do it. Like the shadow work is partially left brain. You just keep making lists of all the emotions. You start seeing connections. It's like one of those crazy maps on the wall where all the red string is tied to everything else. That's literally what you're doing. You're starting to see all the associations, like your neural patterns. And you'll start seeing loops. You'll start seeing patterns. You'll be like, I had that same emotion tied to this other emotion. Like there's entangled neural patterns with emotions.
Yep. And sometimes it won't feel real.
Yeah, dissociation is a real thing. Yeah,
like gosh, that's a good one to get into.
I move through layers and layers of dissociation. Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting one because dissociation is a disconnection, right? And it's literally like what's on the other side of disconnection when I move through that connection.
I suppose that's a good one for when you're when you're not wanting to go between each side. I mean, yes, when I say each side, the side of moving past and integrating what's coming up and playing out the pattern, letting it continue and not seeing any results, and thus you looking at it as a problem and saying that that's something that needs changing, and then making it a negative again, putting that back out into the universe and having that pan out for the no change. Right. I don't know what I was trying to say there. You know what I
mean. It's a challenge to hold the vibe. It's a thing you have to learn how to do, where you go, there it was again. Okay, it's still stuck. And you just stop judging it. You stop going, I don't like this. You're like, it's still there. And it could just be that you moved through a layer of it, that you mastered that part of it. You moved through it, and there's another layer of it stuck here. And that's kind of how it works. You'll just peel it. Because like what I've found is like, as I've learned acupuncture, it's literally like I'm going organ by organ, and it's all the same emotions stuck in different organs. And some of them are a little different, like gallbladder and liver was like intense anger. When I'm going through spleen and stomach, it's completely different. Mm-hmm. But it's still like some layers of things are in there, like panic and anger. It's like, I'm afraid I'm going to get too angry. And that's linked back with the other, so it's like layers and layers. So I find that it's like I'm clearing out layers. There's chakras, there's organs, there's acupuncture meridians, like, so it is a process, and it's just a walking meditation. You just learn to do it, and you start learning to input the good stuff. It helps bring the other stuff up to the surface to be seen. Yeah. What else would you like to add to that? Any tips or anything you experience when you do mirror work, or anything in general?
Well, with mirror work, a lot of that was disassociating from the words I was saying. That's why that really ringed in my ear when you said disassociation. I'm like, oh, Yeah, that hits. That hits close to home. Uh,
Yeah.
that for that one, what was I going to go in with that? It ties into where I feel most of my purpose being fulfilled, which is the conscious conversations with other people, holding space open for them. So in me trying to be that person who has space to share with everybody, I put on this I have this layer to work through to where I need to change them, and if I can't do that, then I'll disassociate from them and say, oh, it's all for naught, it's helpless, I can't do anything. And then
Ah,
I will, kind of just enclose into myself, and then I'll then what? Then I'm left with, all right, am I going to look at this within myself, or am I going to disassociate from my own self, disconnect from who I am and me, recognizing myself in what I'm feeling, and continue with that,
good.
and just it's wherever you want to run with it. It's not going to play out forever,
Right. You
but it's
just keep
something
turning
that'll
around
keep
and
on coming
noticing.
up.
Yeah. Oop, there it is again. I just did that. And for you, it's a projecty thing. Like
Very
they
much
got,
so. Very much
they're,
so.
they're not vibing at they gotta go.
It was for a
That,
while like that, yes.
yeah. Of the 5 soul wounds, that's rejection. Rejection wants to withdraw from the situation because
Hmm.
it's like, it's protecting you from feeling rejected or not accepted. Right.
And then the
So,
real kicker is where I will try and protect them even more so, to play that out continuously, so that you are still in that paradigm of normalizing, oh, I'm just doing this to protect them. I'm still being I'm being adult about the situation, and it just continues on, and
yeah.
until you start to really look at that and feel it.
Yeah, and you can stop the cycle because what
Hmm.
loops with rejection and injustice loop. Well,
It
actually,
does.
they all loop, but like the first ones you'll start to identify are these loops with injustice, rejection, and betrayal and abandonment. They're two different sides. Like for a male, injustice and rejection is a yang thing. So it's a projecty thing, which is exactly what you're describing. For a female, it like is activated through the father parent or male karma, past lifetimes. Like it's activated through a masculine type energy for a male. For a female, injustice and rejection are handed down from like the maternal side. It's activated by the maternal side. It affects your yin energy. So it's different for male or female how the wound works, but you're exactly describing how injustice and rejection loop. Like injustice is about, I need to be perfect. This situation needs to be perfect. They're not perfect enough. They got to go. That's the loop, right? So that's really fascinating because once you start noticing the patterns, like if you're doing those affirmations and those little nuggets come in, or you notice yourself doing it in 3D with other people, you can just be like, mental note to self, I just tried to reject them because they weren't perfect enough. There's that loop again. And you just start to go, oh, okay, it's just something stuck. What's the emotion attached to this? And you can do this while somebody else is talking to you. You can just go in here and be like, that's injustice and rejection looping. I see that. Thank you. What's important to know about this? And you're back. That's how it works.
It's hard on the fly, y'all.
It does take some practice. I've had a lot of practice. I will be honest about that. Like I have had a lot of practice because it came from a place where I had to learn how to do it really fast, or I thought I was going to die. It was literally like the things I was running and projecting, it felt like it was going to kill me because it was like not sleeping, psychosis, like really, really challenging things that I was running on a subconscious level that all came up to be seen. And it's like,
The only
learn
thing,
fast.
the only urgency for most people is just in their daily life. They're trying to get
Right.
a get a job or something. They can't really interact well with people or perform in certain situations where they're forced to face these wounds that they're playing out, and they aren't in alignment, and or something along those lines. Relationships, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Relationships is a big one where we project onto others, and vice versa. and
It's
play out those modes.
it's an excellent way to process through things if you can do it consciously. But yes, I do want to say my experience is out of the ordinary. Like moving through it so big and fast is not the average thing. Most people, it will be in daily interactions, getting mad at your mom, wanting to kick your dog. It'll be normal things. It'll be spaced out. You know, maybe like there's one really challenging thing this month during the full moon or the lead up to the full moon, and then maybe the next thing doesn't happen till 2 months later, you know, whatever. The more conscious you can do the work, the more you will move through it faster, because you can, because universe knows you can handle it. Most of the time, people that do it on the level that I do it, it's like I came in to do that.
Yes.
Like that is what I do, is alchemize. So it's kind of like my job. It's like my universe job. It's my universal job, is to anchor light by clearing out things I came in and absorbed in my first lifetime. Like I took on a part of that collective consciousness that was a very low vibrational female energy. And like through multiple lifetimes, I've been processing through it until this one, it makes sense. And I do it very consciously. And I'm moving through all those things. So that's the past life stuff that's come up for me. Gosh, there was something else that I thought of. It's slipping my mind at the moment, but yeah, has past life stuff come up for you? Like, are you aware of layers of things on that level?
No, not very big. Only one that I remember, and it was mainly from how I was moving through my own life, and I just gave up a lot of my own sovereignty in a sense. I didn't chase after what I wanted, and I would just flow with what the external presented to me. And through that, I got cancer. I was just so upset, and holding it in. When you hold things in, it'll come out in the physical, and that's what it came out for me. And I held everything, and I didn't express myself. I didn't show any displeasure, or I just cut myself out from emotions for a good part of it. Yeah.
We're going to put it all in here so nobody else sees the pain. That's injustice, internalizing it.
Yeah. And for this one, I feel that's a big part of that, is letting go of these, things that I've attached to my being, and moving through them so that I can become a person who feels open to express themselves, and that it's okay no matter what, and how I present it, even, because it'll all come out in perfect timing, and it's exactly what needs to.
Exactly. You're presented with those opportunities in
Always.
exact right timing. And there's something really important you said at the beginning. It's about choice. Like literally, this is how you reality surf. Shadow dancing is, I also associate it with reality surfing, like that emotion peaks. The peak of an emotion is where you manifest stuff. If it's a negative emotion, like you're going to manifest, it's going to get stuck in here. You're going to project it, like it gets trapped. Choice. When you get to that crescendo of the emotion, if it's a difficult emotion, if it's an unpleasant emotion, you get to the crescendo, you have a choice to, if you're unconscious, you just react. When you become conscious, you have the choice to act and take a different direction. That's how you anchor new timelines for yourself. You don't go out and we don't jump onto a timeline outside of ourselves. We anchor it down into reality. I guess you could describe it either way, because it's quantum. Yes to both, but I tend to see it as like at that choice point, at the peak of an emotion. If you're conscious of the emotion, you can go, wow, there's space to take that breath. What do I really want to do here? Do I want to yell at this guy? Or can I take this outside and like shake it out? Can I go process this some other way without projecting it physically onto this person? Mm-hmm. Or if it's an injustice thing, like for you, can I not park this in here again? Is there some safe way I can move that so it's not internalized anymore and I'm not beating myself up?
And I think this is where it's very important when you're trying to alchemize to, dance with your shadow and work through these tough, difficult emotions that, are slippery and try and slide past us through the subconscious. It's important to bring it back to love. And that's through loving yourself and loving others. Loving yourself to recognize and honor what you are feeling and vocalize it, and to love the other person, to do it in a tactful way, or if you're receiving it from them, and to allow that space to hear them and honor them and where they are at. Because a lot of the times it comes from a trigger from what they are running as well.
Exactly.
That
You
goes
start to
hand in
see
hand.
other people's projections. Yeah.
Mhm.
You're like, whoa, he just projected.
So you
And
can
I saw
take-
that. You'll start catching those things.
So you
And
can
that's
let
when you're
that,
really getting the hang of it.
and that's a good thing to see. Now, for a while, I personally went into judgment, and I was like, how can I change them? How can I open them up to the perspective that I see or that they're running at? And I wasn't honoring them as a sovereign being. And that is where it's changing right now, that I'm recognizing that, oh, I'm still doing it. I'm trying to change that person. It's hopeless. It's hopeless. Let them play it out. And if you feel, and that's a tough one, recognizing when you have your part to play in that, if any. If you are supposed to be the observer and just witness them doing it without the judgment, because people still feel your energy, you're still sending them vibes and thoughts, because we're all connected, we're all one. So you're either the observer or you're the participant, and the participant can be this loving participant who allows them to act where they are without you reacting to what they are doing. The reaction, bringing it back into yourself and loving what you're feeling, but not playing that out if you do have any triggers, is so important. And that does take practice too. That takes so much practice.
You hold space for them. You're this mirror, you're vibing up here and you're like, oh, they're projecting. Okay. That's when you take that breath and you be like, that's theirs. I don't need to take that on. Thank you. But I can sit here and nod, and I can nod and go in here and like, ooh, is this triggering something for me? No, it's not actually. And then you come back and you're still nodding and you're like, and how does that make you feel? And that's where it's important. Like when you're doing this consciously with another person, is like the mirror person just keeps eliciting the thing. Like you just keep asking, okay, I hear you. Like that's a very powerful acknowledgement. I hear you. If you're doing this by yourself, say it to yourself. If that in the mirror, that naggy little voice goes, you're not doing this right. You go, I hear you. Thank you. What's running you? Like, why are you there? And then you go away. You go back to your affirmation. And it's the same way with another person. You just keep eliciting the, I hear you. What else? What else would you like to share? I'm listening. What else? Those are really the only things you need to say if you're doing it consciously with somebody else, is like those three things. Until it just keeps coming out, but they feel safe to let it come out. And then like it gets to the point where they move through that membrane for themselves and they have the emotion. And usually it's crying, or if it's anger, it'll be yelling. And you just, if the person's yelling at you, you just go, yep, I hear you. And if it's too much, you go be like, I respect what you're saying, but like, I don't feel like this is about me. And this is a little bit out of control. I'm going to step away. We'll come back to this at a later time. Anger is a hard one. Let me just say that anger is a really hard one because it's completely reactionary on a major volcanic scale. That's a tough one. So I'm not saying sit through it with somebody who's abusing you. Absolutely not. Healthy boundaries, people, healthy boundaries. This is about two conscious people having a conversation. Like I had a conversation like this last week with a lady that I do tapping with. And it was like, I'm really angry right now. And I don't want you to do it. I'm projecting. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And it was like back and forth. It was like, am I safe to express this anger with you? I don't feel completely safe. And I would just say that I was like, no, I don't feel completely safe to express it. and I feel like I'm projecting. Is it okay to express this? Can you hold this space for me? Do I need to back off? Because some people can't hold that vibe for you. You got to realize that, right? So yeah, that's the benefit of doing it with another person who can hold the space for you and just be like, come on, keep it coming. Come on, bring it home. And then you have the emotion and you're like, there we go. It's okay. Tapping's also a really good way. If you have to do it by yourself and you're doing a lot of work in here, EFT tapping, people, oh my God, Google it, YouTube it, call me, I do it. EFT tapping moves stuff so fast.
And this is what she lives for. So don't feel free, don't feel nervous or shy to DM, because she does wonders.
It is an amazing practice. It takes you like literally 1 to 2 sessions to learn how to do it. You don't even need a session. You can just go, go YouTube it, learn the tapping points. The next time you get triggered, tap through it and say the emotion that you're having. I feel really angry right now. This really sucks balls. Like whatever it is, say it. And then you'll get to a point where the emotion actually comes up, and it's usually always sadness or disconnection that's under the anger. The anger is just protecting you. Right? And then you have the emotion, and then you usually get really tired because the body just moved it out. It's like no longer in that meridian or that organ. You usually get really tired. Allow yourself to go rest, take a nap, take a couple deep breaths. If you have to go back to work or whatever, take a couple deep breaths. If you can take a nap, take a nap. You will feel tired after you move stuff out of your body like that. So yeah, those, I think on that subject of finding things that help you feel aligned, like the gratitudes, the affirmations, the mirror work, tapping, conscious conversations with another person who can hold space for you and really just allow you to explore. They're going to be exploring things too. Like holding space for somebody like that is like, whoa, I didn't even know I could do that. Like it's very empowering when you actually do it for the first time. You're like, that's all it is. Like, wow, that was huge. Anything else about finding things that help you feel aligned?
Just letting go. I just want to add to the what you dropped down for in emotions for wounds, to get into that mind space of feeling in alignment. And that's just going with those calm vibrations, those feelings that sometimes feel foreign because we don't get them a lot. Usually when we have expectations of how a certain thing will go, expectations is a huge one, and how we think we are supposed to process emotions in our journey to get to a certain point. Like we need to do so and so and so to get to enlightenment. I need to not have material possessions or something, for example, or I need to feel a certain way about a situation before I'm fully move past it. And for me, a big one is when you were just talking, I felt there was a conscious conversation there. I felt very safe. I felt it was okay to listen, that I don't need to chime in, and that what I am hearing, allowing you to speak their truth, let it out, feel comfortable in what they are saying, and relaying it to me, that is all that is needed, and that both parties get exactly what they need out of the conversation, out of the interaction, is because I see you, you see me, we're both doing our part, and letting them be the sovereign being that they are, having that mutual respect is so key. And just bringing it to yourself to start that, they'll pick up on it, and then that's how it happens. You just have to be the conscious observer, allowing that to happen. And once you create that space, they will recognize it. Maybe not consciously, but they'll feel it.
You'll recognize. You'll be like, I did that. I held that vibe. I did that. Wow. And like for like a wound like humiliation, that's the opposite of humiliation, is like pride is not a terrible thing, people. Pride is actually like, I am courageous. I am competent. I have a strength within me. That's really, and pride gets a bad rap. That's what pride is like, wow, I'm a powerful being. In the highest sense of that word powerful, it's like, look at the strength within me. Look at the courage within me. Look at the bravery. Like,
Ooh.
I didn't even know I had it in me. Like, those are the things, those aha moments when things come full circle, the very gentle. With the full circle moments, I find there's either a giggle in there, like, look at how that just came full circle. Universe, you got jokes. Or there's like just a calm, like, well, of course that happened because it just came full circle. Yeah, those are the moments where you're like, oh, I just moved through that. Wow. And that's how you know.
That reminds me of stories of people who do hardcore, so like psychedelic drugs, like DMT for something, and they'll have like a jester experience. And the jester is just the comicalness of it all, playing out this trauma. And sometimes it's so traumatic, and people say it's the devil, it's the demon, it's this horrible negative feeling. That's you going into what's already there, bub. That's what you're
right.
already feeling inside of you, and that's you diving into it head first, because that's why these experiences, those drugs, in my opinion, are so life-changing, is because they're just straight into it. You're just this direct funnel, chugging this holy water of raising your vibe. It's just, it's wild.
Yeah.
And
yeah, those kind of imagery, those kind of dreams or images are like you experiencing your unconscious self on autopilot. Like, that's the fool in a very left brain nutshell. The fool's not an idiot, which everybody assumes with the fool card. The fool is the unconscious self, you as an unconscious person moving through life on autopilot, only reacting, having no conscious awareness.
And just to say, drugs are not the way to go about, your spiritual journey. You don't need drugs to kickstart that, or I mean, yeah, that is how it happens for a lot of people, but a lot of it just comes within doing the inner work, and that'll lead you down the rabbit hole all the same, and you will have those experiences. And why I said earlier, chasing that high, it physically changes you, and you feel a lot better afterwards, like you just was put through the wash and you're clean now. It's very refreshing.
And plant medicine for that purpose, like with a psychedelic experience, that's the right journey for some people. Like people who that's the right journey, they feel called to it. And you also do it with reverence. It's not something you need to come back and do 52 times. It's like,
yes,
have the experience. Ayahuasca taught me how to do this thing or showed me something about myself, and then you go on. But I find it fascinating that dreams and like plant medicines will show you those aspects of yourself that it'll show you the level you're working at, and like how to do the work. It's like the spirit guide coming in and saying, ask. It was a one-word thing, and it changed my freaking life, y'all. Like just learning to ask it as a question. Like that's my big beef when we're talking about like intentions. Like I'm not an intention person. I am an affirmation person. To command the universe is a moot thing. And a lot of people will not agree with me. They'll be like, you need to command what you want. It's like, no, dog. The universe is already reflecting perfectly what you've got going on. You don't need to command it to be any different. It's just showing you what you're doing. All you got to do is align and clear, and it will reflect that perfectly too. So affirm those positive things. I am courageous. I am centered. I am, whatever. I am all the good feels, gratitude, lots of gratitude. But you don't need to go out and say, I want this job because I think it's the right thing for me. Like, universe knows that stuff way better than you do. Why don't you just deal with what's right in front of your face and let you, as you're aligning, universe brings the things to you. It's okay. Perfect example, this podcast. Right? Major fear of public speaking.
Yes.
All my life. all my life. I've worked on it a lot through my whole life. One day, Jacob pops in, like we met through an Instagram thing. Jacob pops in, we're having conversations. He's like, let's start a podcast. And then like, doink, the light bulb goes off. I'm like, this is universe's level up challenge. Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. Thank you, universe, for bringing me this thing that I get to learn to tackle with a co-host who is also doing the same work. And it was really amazing. And it's like, you guys, we're literally doing our own process. Like, this is live shadow work, us doing our stuff live on camera, talking about our stuff. Like, we literally, this is a fun little nugget. Like, we literally are working on, I feel like I'm over talking. He's like, I don't feel like I talked enough. I'm like, okay, we're going to need like code words and how to cue each other right. So when you see us doing this and doing this, it's like we're acknowledging that somebody has something to say. Janine, you need to shut your yapper for a minute. Like, that's self-deprecating. I hear that. But it's like, okay, I will complete my thought and then I pass it on to you. What do you have to add to that conversation? And we're learning how to flow consciously, like with another person. And like, it's amazing to me. I mean, it's amazing to me. So yay for growing. Yay us. Look how courageous we are. And we're each working on kind of different things, but like we're meeting in the middle on it. It's just a really cool process. It's a cool process. Learn how to do it for yourself. Find people in your tribe, in your soul group, in your tribe, people you jive with. Internet's great for that. Clubhouse is great for that. You guys, we're going to be hosting stuff on Clubhouse where we're just getting soul family together, or anybody who resonates with what we're talking about so they can talk to each other. We're just holding space, starting the conversation, letting everybody connect. And that's what it's all about. It's amazing. Okay. That was a
Forgot to send that Zoom link. Oh, well, we don't need a guest today. That's perfect.
Okay. So we're going to open up the Zoom. If there's anybody out there that wants to jump on the Zoom with us that would like to share something, we're going to open that up. If anybody needs the Zoom link, throw a message.
Still 20 minutes.
Yeah, we got 20 minutes, but we'll open it up in case there's anybody out there that wants to jump in.
No, just letting everybody else know.
Right. There's about 20 minutes. We can go a little over because we started.
Yeah.
We don't have to. Yeah. This is like recorded for all time. So we can go for 2 hours.
I just didn't know if the scheduled, because it's scheduled, if it ended early or not.
Oh, with Zoom? No, it'll keep going.
Awesome. Perfect.
It'll keep going. So if anybody is listening or already has a link and wants to jump on in. It'll send you to the waiting room. Jacob will let you in, and then we'll just have this little convo. While we're waiting to see if anybody jumps in, let's go to point number 3 that we had. Reminding yourself that it's okay to feel out of alignment. Important.
Yeah, it is.
So important. Would you like to elaborate on that?
I can't find the words right at the moment. Do you have anything to share right now?
Reminding yourself that it's okay. It's like literally with the EFT tapping that I do, it's all okay. Like you say the thing, this feels yucky, whatever the yucky is, this feels like anger, this feels like sadness, this feels like resentment, whatever it is you're tapping and you're like, this feels blank, and that's okay. I'm okay, right? It's okay to feel this. Literally, you tell yourself you're rewiring your amygdala because this is a thing in your brain, a protective thing in your brain that's literally like trying to just help you not feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't know that it can stop doing it because the human brain doesn't decipher between what's happening right now, like being triggered right now, and remembering a trigger. Or like we were talking in the very beginning to bring it full circle, future anxiety, projecting fear into the future. It doesn't know the difference between past, present, and future. It just says there's a yucky feeling in the body. Let's go into defense mode. Tapping your meridians, especially like the kidney meridian right here below your collarbones, and just saying the emotion, this feels like anger, and that's okay. It's okay to be angry. I'm safe. It's okay to feel this. Here's the clincher. It's okay to feel this. I know I am not this emotion. I am experiencing the emotion. I am not the emotion. When I went through like what I consider my major Chiron conscious integration of my Chiron wound, like talking planetary stuff, your major karmic soul wound that shows up in your astrology chart as Chiron, the wounded healer. It's like your greatest wound, but your greatest entrance into your own healing, being your own healer. I experienced it consciously as like the most massive panic attack that I surfed through. Like it was the most terrifying thing. It was every scary projected thing that I thought could have possibly been happening. And I had done the process enough with the tapping and with the like going in and doing all those things. I had done the process enough where I was like, holy moly, this is like the grand mal emotion of this wounding. And I'm like, okay. Like, wow, this feels really overwhelming, horrible, like all the things. It was like, I'm panicking. I feel like I'm panicking. I feel like this. I feel like that. Pretty much for 2.5 hours, all I could do was walk. If you're having intense emotions, move the body. Walking is a really good way. Shaking, jumping, whatever, do something if you're in an intense emotion. All I could do was pace up and down this aisleway at work. Luckily, I work at night by myself, so there's nobody else there and had all the space to do it, and tap and go, this is fear, and fear is not real. This is fear, and it's okay to feel the fear. This is fear. Fear is not the truth. And those three things is pretty much, I just kept saying it, and it took probably 45 minutes for it to start subsiding. I was in a full-blown panic attack for about 45 minutes. And let me tell you, when I came out of that, I was like, when it started backing off, I was like, whoa, it's actually slowing down. Because for a while, I was like, I'm going to have to check myself in again. Like, I'm going to have to take myself to the hospital, the mental hospital, not the emergency room, the mental hospital. Like, because this is happening again and I can't handle it. This feels like I can't handle it. I am okay. And if it gets to the point where you can't, like, that was the first time I could ride it through all the way. There were plenty of times before that where I couldn't ride it all the way through. So if it is, I want to stress that for anyone, or I want to emphasize that for anyone who does experience very hard, deep karmic emotions. Like, there's a difference between being a little stressed out by something, being aggravated and agitated and angry, and like it completely overwhelming you. Okay. Psychosis is when it takes you over. Do not hesitate to go get help, whatever that is, because these things can be big and scary. That was my experience. Most people aren't going to experience it like that. I'm saying this strictly for the people that may be watching at any point in time and space. If it's that big, there are people that will help you. Get help, because that is the karmic thing to push through, is like taking responsibility for yourself, whatever it happens to be. Like, it'll be okay.
Yeah. Whatever you feel is right, though. You're not like you need to go because you're feeling these overwhelming emotions. Life will get very uncomfortable, and that's what we need to work through.
Yeah, absolutely. There is always help. That's, I guess, where I want to go with that. There's always help. There's always a way to move through it. You know, sometimes it can be really hard. Mine was really interesting, convoluted. The dark night of the soul was like a solid year. Like, it was a dark night of the year, dark year of the soul. And I got through it. I got off medication. I was medicated for a year. I got off medication completely because it was all inner stuff coming up to be seen, and it just came up hard and fast. So if it's bigger than tapping, if it's panic attacks, extreme anxiety, there's nothing wrong with being on some medication to help you get it sorted out until you get the process down pat, and then you can move through it safely. That's what I had to do. And now I've got it by the tail. It's like learn how to train your dragon, literally in real life. And you will come out the other side as long as you just keep dealing with the chunk you can handle. It's just do what you can handle. So, reminding yourself that it's always okay. It's always okay. This will be okay. Tap. Ask for help.
Yeah. The big focal point of this is having that space to have your perspective change from what you're and bring it back to expectations, what I was talking about earlier, it's going to be so different almost 100% of the time of what you expect things to be and how this is going to pan out, especially when it comes to what you're presented with afterwards, because it's going to be something so foreign because you've done the work and now it's not, you're in a new space, you're in a new perspective, a new mindset, a new frequency. You are feeling and seeing things from a different lighting, and you are questioning a lot of your beliefs. Say with what you were going through, the psychosis and what they were trying to diagnose as schizophrenia, other people would say you need drugs to survive for the rest of your life. All it was, and now you don't hear voices, and all it was inner work, things that came up from the past, whether it be past life. For a lot of us, it starts in childhood. That is interconnected, but start with the childhood. And
start with what's right in front of your face that you don't like about your life. Don't worry. My experience is my own. I'm only sharing my experience for anyone who's going through it similarly to me. Most people, it's just turn around and see what annoys the crap out of you in your own life and deal with, like, make lists of those emotions for sure. Yes, I'm the girl you come to talk to when your whole world is falling down, not when you're like having the mini stuff. I mean, you can do that too if you want tapping, but it's like my experience has been in the deepest depths of the dark night of the soul, like, for extended periods. Like, I was vacationing there for a year. So, but look at where I'm at now, right? Now I'm powering through this stuff in a way that most people just don't understand life the way I kind of see it now. Like, it can be kind of hard to relate to people where I'm like, you don't see that? You don't see that? How life works that way? And that's where you're back to just meet people where they are, just nod and go, that's nice. Tell me more. Tell me more. I guess that's the point where that's what you do, right? Like, you move out of processing your own stuff and you move into like the creative zone. Like, I heard somebody in a chat somewhere say, like, I think I cleared all my stuff and now I'm just like, I don't know what's next. And the girl was like, you go into the creative zone. Like, you go into play. Now you play. I was like, gosh, that makes a lot of sense. There's also like integration periods. Like, you might process through some stuff and then the body needs time to like clear all the blocks out, because the energy you moved out, the body needs time to heal that stuff. So there'll be like pauses. Most people will get a lot of space between intense events. Acupuncture helps with stuff like that too. When you're doing a lot of shadow work, seriously, you guys look into acupuncture or some sort of body-centered modality to help the energies integrate and let the body heal. It's a powerful thing too. I've had a lot of really amazing sensations go through the body as energy releases. So I know it works, and it's just really good and supportive. The body will appreciate you.
And you'll feel it. You'll definitely notice it in so many different ways, and where you're coming back into reacting with the external, you'll see a lot of change, and that's where the adaptation comes in. Got to be adaptable. And that takes practice.
The more you get into the body, the more you'll feel those energies moving. Like, you'll start, dreams will start up that will start teaching you how to do things. Like, all kinds of neat things start happening when you clear the psychic basement out. So getting back in your body. Like, most people are not in their body, and that's why they don't feel their emotions. That's why they don't feel energy moving in their body, because they're so out of their body. And it's literally, that's that turning around and alchemizing. Just keep going in here and be like, oh, that stuck. Deep breath. Okay.
And because they're so used to playing that pattern out, when you create that space in it, you'll see your conversations change on the daily, and other people will take on new forms because you are seeing it from a different lighting. They're so used to playing the game inside the matrix that when you're ready for it to come out and play with everyone else, and you're looking at them as this perfect sovereign being and not judging them, they take on new forms, and the interaction completely changes. That's where go for it.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Okay. And that's where adapting to adapting to the change in mindset and the perspectives is really helpful, because you're going to be questioning it. You're going to be questioning why was it different from before? I mean, just because things have changed. It's so fun when you look at it that way. And then you start not disassociating, which is, well, something that I did because I was in the mindset, the victimhood of reality's fake. This is all a game to play with me. It turned more into reality's fake. Reality's not it is a game, but it's what I make of it. And then you start becoming the creator, like you were saying, you're in creative mode, and you'll still notice a lot of those patterns playing out. And so that gives you the opportunity to dance with it and to move it around and transmute. And
to boogie. Get your boogieing on. Yeah. Forgot what I was going to say about that thing. And
holding space for the other person.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Thank you. Is that not only will your interactions be different, but like different people will start coming into your life. You'll start inputting and attracting and having experiences with people who are like, literally, it's just your tribe. You're attracting your own frequency. So you'll start vibing with your tribe. You'll start being attracted to those kind of conversations or whatever, whatever you're doing here on a higher soul level. Like, you'll start going in that direction when you just clear stuff. You just stay in your heart and be really honest with yourself and be like, what would I like to do? And in what way can I make choices that align with what I want to do? And it's really not making it go out and make it happen. It's just clear the way for it to happen. Like, that's the difference between manifesting and magic. Like, you are magic. You don't need to manifest. You're doing it 24/7. Clear the way for it to bring you all the good things that you're here to do. That's it. Just clear the way. And it's the opposite that most people go about it, because they're all in their left brain and they're all in their ego and they're like, I'm going to command reality and bend it to my will. It's like, dude, it's already working for you. You're missing the point. So just a funny little nugget so you guys can see it turned on its head. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's very interesting. Life gets very interesting when you start playing the game like that, when you learn how to play the game of life. It all comes to you. It all comes to you. So keep noticing those emotions. Is there anybody that wants to jump on?
Let me check the comments. Not looking like it so far. I don't think I have anybody emailing me at the moment.
That's cool. You guys, we will get better at putting out announcements earlier in the week. It's only episode 2. I feel like we're doing a really good job. We will get better as time progresses. In the meantime, all this good info and information is available on YouTube anytime. Are you feeling like you want to, is there anything else on your mind you want to?
Yeah, actually.
Chit-chat about?
Reminding, going on to our third highlight, for reminding yourself that it's okay to be where you're at. I want to talk a little bit more about recognizing where you're at in that stage, so that you can decide. It's kind of, it kind of all ties in together. So we're going to go full circle on all of our topics here. So in recognizing it to begin with, when you're coming into terms with where you are at, it's going to take a lot of going within yourself and having already done a lot of the work, this is what the practice is for, working at your own pace. Take what you've learned and what's resonated here and implement it in whatever ways you can. That wherever you're at, whether it's a dark place or a place that you feel so happy and connected at, don't hold on to it. Not saying don't feel it, but don't hold on to it. Don't have a desire, a need to stay in the happy place. I'm never going to get out of the bad place. It's not going to change if you have that one or the other kind of mindset. Yeah, it's to stay in the flow state and to be open to it all, It's very important that that you detach from the expectation, but not from what from what the experience brings to you. So
Right.
feel it
Turn
in
the soap
full
opera
force.
off. Right. It's, you had the emotion, turn the soap opera off that brought it to you, and just look at the emotion. That's a good aspect too. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Carry
keep
on.
going.
Just
Actually,
like it's a really
anything else to
down
go
to
on?
earth way to just relay it as a soap opera. 3D drama, the 3D soap opera brought you the emotion. That's where the detachment comes in. It's be like, okay, thank you, soap opera. Let's have a look at this emotion because that's what's in here. And then do that. My thing is notice it. Take a breath. If you can get 2 in there, that's even better. Ask your question, what's important to understand about this feeling that I'm having? And then go back to what you're doing. Because usually that's all the time you'll have unless you're sitting in meditation. My best advice is to start this process in meditation with the thoughts that come up in meditation because you have space to do it.
You want to do a little practice run on that now?
Sure. What you got in mind?
Meditation. Let's go within.
Okay. Are we doing it out loud? How are we doing this?
Anybody who is listening and would like to join along, anything that has come up during this talk that may have triggered you or reminded you of something, you're like, that's familiar. Join us and sit with it. You can tap, you can simply ask it, just go within and look at it and bring it back to yourself. It's okay to relate to others. It's even better when you know that it's all relating to yourself and that you are aware of where you are at and why it is speaking to you. In the nose, out the mouth, however you want.
When you're sitting in the meditation, if nothing's coming up, it's good to say, hey, is there anything that would like to come up at this time? I'm listening. And then keep breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just notice those thoughts that are peeking in. Just make a mental note. Say thank you. Does it have anything else it would like to share with you or show you? And keep breathing. And if it starts showing you things or liminal imagery starts coming up, just watch like you're watching TV.
You want to explain to them what liminal imagery is?
Just visuals, visual imagery. Kind of like what happens between awake and asleep. You start getting like liminal visuals. It's like the beginning of a dream state, but it's the space. It's the in between, right? It's the space where your subconscious can connect and communicate with your conscious mind. But you're not trying to guide the visualization. That's the important thing, is you're just asking it, what's there? Is there something you can show me? And you keep breathing and you just hold that space for it. Literally, it's like, you're like, what have you got for me? What are you holding for me? Show me. and you follow it like TV and watch it. And you never know what it's going to show you. And then if you keep breathing, sometimes the actual emotion attached to that will surface as well. And keep breathing, breathing, breathing. And just allow it to come up. Tell it it's safe. It's safe to let this come up. For me, it's crying a lot. In meditation, anytime I'd start doing mantra, I just start crying. I don't know why. I just let it happen. I don't judge it. I'm just like, hey, there you are again. Come on up. Let's cry together. Let's have a good old cry.
I'll notice something similar. I won't cry, but I'll have like a tear roll out of one eye or the other.
Ask it if there's more. Is there more? Is there more?
I don't feel anything from it. I mean, it's not like I'm detaching myself from it. It's just weird.
And maybe there's not, but open the door for it to come up. Always.
It's usually after I've taken a while to meditate, though. So it's probably like, he's finally doing it again.
Yeah, I'm so happy. He meditated.
It feels like a happy tear, yeah.
And you'll get those too. You'll at some point, like, you'll move through an emotion and you're just like, the release will be so amazing. You'll just be like, I'm so happy right now. And you're crying happy tears. And then you've had a full circle moment with an emotion during meditation. And it's amazing. Some people will have, it's called an emotional release. I'm in massage therapy, so it happens a lot on the table and people don't know what it is. And it's literally like the body feels safe enough. Mm-hmm. And the emotion just comes out. Like they'll cry or maniacally laugh, or sometimes people getting Reiki will be like, F, 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 like anger will come out, and then their body just starts shaking. And that's the body's trauma response to like getting the trauma out of the body, is like shaking. Is what animals do after they've been attacked. Like, say like a zebra in the wild will get attacked by a lion and it gets away. And as soon as it's safe, it does this crazy shaking, and it's literally shaking the trauma out of the body so it doesn't get stuck. It's a very natural thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's powerful.
I've never seen that on Animal Planet or anything.
It can be scary. Like, I had a girl on the table one time, and she just started like telling me about part of her life story, and she just started crying. And I went immediately into Traeger therapy, where I'm just rocking the body and I'm simulating that shaking by rocking her. Rocking is also very soothing. Like, if you're in like, this is soothing too. Just hold yourself and rock.
I'll have to get some tips from you on that.
Yeah. Traeger therapy is just like a myofacial kind of technique where you're just gently moving parts of the body in a rocking motion, or these sort of like monastic type motions where it's two directions at the same time. And it confuses the body, and the body releases the pattern. And then a lot of times they'll have this trembling all over, and that's an emotional release. And she was like, what is happening? This has never happened. I'm like, girl, you have an emotional release. Keep crying. You're safe. Keep talking. Tell me what's going on with you until it stops. I'm going to keep rocking you until it feels complete. And then that trauma loop is done. It's out of the body. And she was like, I'm really tired. It'll happen every time. Go take a nap. The body needs to like defrag. It's literally in defrag phase. Reorganize your synapses, rewires your brain. It's amazing. Body-centered modalities are amazing. So we got distracted from our meditation, but that's the general thing. Sit down, give it some space. Notice the super highway in your head. One thought that's honking at you very loudly. Just go, hey buddy, what's the road rage about? Let's talk.
And if you'd like to go back and mute too, that's totally fine.
Yes, absolutely. If you're like, you're not the one today, there's another one over here that's louder. Do that. Whatever it is.
Would you like to go back?
Maybe we should get into doing some guided meditations. Like, that might be a thing we do. That might be cool.
I think holding some time for the topic, for the conversation would be great. We'll see. Whatever feels right in the moment.
This is a separate thing for like Patreon, like record, pre-record a
Let's get to
meditation specifically for shadow work. Like, we're having ideas right now, guys. Be so awesome.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share on shadow dancing? I've shared my part. I'm at peace with it. I've gotten it out there.
I think I would just like to add, be courageous. Shadow work always feels like you're fucking dying. Pardon my French. It always feels like the end of the world. It's not easy. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with your body. Have compassion for yourself. If you feel like it's too much, take a break. You know
why we're calling it a dance. It's not work.
Yes, it's about giving
connotation.
It's about flow between the masculine and the feminine energies. Just be courageous, but also be compassionate with yourself. And just keep walking towards it. That's it. Just keep walking towards it. You will get there. You will get that psychic basement cleaned out. There is a point where you go into the creative mode. There is a point where it flips. There is a point where there's no more trauma or shadow. We'll say that. And it's not that the shadow gets burned away by the sun. It just, you hold your shadow and you hold your light, which is consciousness. You hold them both equally, and you've seen. Shadow work is just about seeing every aspect and being like, and I love you, and it's okay to be there. It's not that it goes away. Right. It's just that it stops running the program because it no longer needs to protect you, because you've seen it and you've moved through it and you're like, and I'm still alive. I'm okay. That's it. So it's always there, and you just learn to dance with it. And like every now and then it's going to ask you to level up, even when you feel like I've seen it all. It's like, there's another, guess what? There's another octave. Let's do a little dance, and let's do some Watusi over here. And then you learn to waltz, and then you learn all kinds of dances. And then it's fun. Then it gets fun. Once you get into creative zone, it's fun. And I feel complete. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you.
And thank you, and you, and you, and you. I think I would like to say, check out the links in the description if you guys are interested in more content that we put out. Instagram, chats on Clubhouse. Those are really fun. If you like us and if you like what we're doing, of course you like us. If you like what we're doing and you find value in it and you want to support us, we have Patreon and a Ko-Fi account. Those links are down here somewhere in the description.
And email us for suggestions as well if you have any.
Suggestions are welcome. Topics. Anybody that wants to jump on at any episode, DM us for a link, email us for a link. We're always posting that information. We will continue to grow and figure this fun little dance out for ourselves as we keep going. Thanks everybody for listening. Shall I?
You shall.
All right. Good night, everyone. Have an awesome week.
That's funny you ended on 3. Did you notice that the last one was 2-2 for the date, and now it's 3-3?
I did. There's no coincidence there.
No, there isn't. Alrighty, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful day or night.